markets. Very interesting, very essential, very useful tips or recommendations. What are these recommendations? Very simply, APMC market में हमें सुधार चाहिए. APMC market restricts the marketability of the crop by the farmer. Only 3 days ago, Arun Jaitley, Finance Minister, announced that fruits and vegetables, which are perishables, can be sold even outside of the APMC mandi system. Therefore, we need to depoliticize the APMC markets, number one, and number two, allow farmers more freedom to sell to whoever they want. And if this is done, I'm sure corporates will come, enter into a contract with the farmer directly, and he'll probably get a better price. The second, आपका जो सुझाव है, warehouse facilities, investment in warehouse facilities and warehouse receipt system, which should be transferable, negotiable and transferable. Let me share with you something. 1997, 1998, for the first time the World Bank came to India with an agenda to open up commodity futures market. I was a part of the team of consultants 15 years ago. I was a coordinator for 2 international workshops. One in Vigyan Bhavan in Delhi in 97, the other one was in World Trade Center, Cov Parade in 98. I wrote 2 reports for the Government of India. World Bank, UNCTAD and the Government of India. There were 3 agencies which came together. In the second conference in Mumbai, the theme was structured financing and warehouse receipt system. I wrote that report. It was an international seminar. And I made a strong pitch recommendation for introducing warehouse receipt system. When 1998, nothing happened. Went into cold storage. Somebody discovered that in 2007, 2008. And that is how this Warehousing Development and Regulation Act, which is in place now, that came out. Now, even today, warehouse receipts are not negotiable and transferable simply because we need to amend the negotiable instrument act. For हमें warehouse receipt चाहिए और warehouse receipt must be freely tradable and it should be freely fungible. Fungible का मतलब है आप warehouse में गोदाम में जाके माल दे दो आपको रसीद मिलेगा. आप रसीद वापस दे दो आपको माल मिलेगा. This is called fungibility. So we don't have those systems today. Therefore, he is recommending that, which is absolutely important. Third one, electronic trading. Obviously, we need to take this forward. Quality standards है हमारे देश में. You have BIS and several other quality systems, but it's not observed fully. Therefore, we need to tighten our quality standards in keeping with the changes around the world. Quality standards around the world are becoming tighter and tighter, stricter and stricter. Therefore, we need to also update our quality standards. And the last one, of course, is contract farming. Contract farming में तो बहुत research हो चुका है. The biggest hurdle, in my opinion, in contract farming is, will the farmer perform his part of the contract, or will the corporate or the promoter, entrepreneur, will he perform his part of the contract? अभी समझो किसान बोलते हैं मैं आपको नहीं बेचूंगा after 3 months of growing the crop. What is the recourse for the entrepreneur? Or if the entrepreneur refuses to take the crop, what is the recourse for the farmer? And therefore, the state will have to step in. Probably the district collector must become the third party who will guarantee that the farmers and the entrepreneur or the promoter will actually perform his part of the contract. So I think we need to evolve suitable rules, legislation or laws to ensure that contract farming as a system actually succeeds. But unfortunately we don't have that system. And therefore, we need probably a legal framework or much better, stronger, stricter regulation of contract farming across the country. So thank you very much. I'm sure there are some more thoughts, but I think we have some more time to go, and therefore I'll come back to agriculture. I want to come to our friend Arvind. He's a banker and a forex expert. I have actually 2 questions for you. Okay, I think from the currency market outlook, I think this is going to interest all of us. There are 2 questions, but I'm going to ask the second question first. What are your views on the currency market? What's the outlook for the rupee over the next 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months? This is what each one of our very distinguished delegates are interested in.
Okay, hi. Thanks for listening. I'll try and give you a sense of what is happening in the forex markets, and then I'll also try and give you a sense of what I expect in the currency side. Of course, we are very small players in the global market, so no one bank or no one individual can completely tell you what's happening. But if you ask me, where does dollar be looking in the next 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? Despite अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं, my sense is that rupee will actually be slightly weaker from here. Okay, fundamentally this may not agree with a lot of people. We are expecting a lot of FI money coming in, FDI coming in, we're seeing a lot of changes being made. Why do we think rupee will appreciate from here? I think the reasons are twofold. One is the US economy definitely looks to be recovering from here. The last 2 years, 3 years, US was completely slowing down. The interest rates were cut in the US. The economy has started improving again, not completely out of the woods. But if you look at data coming out of the US, by and large, lag raha hai that the economy is recovering. The US recovers, make no mistake, money will start going back to the US. How much ever our valuations look good, there will always be some money which will want to go back to the US because interest rates in the US and valuation in the US look better than India. Step 2 is domestically also. Wow. The new government has inherited a lot of muck from the previous government. So it's not easy for the new government to come in and change in the next 6 months. So there are a lot of painful decisions which have to be taken. I think this impact will be seen over the next 12 to 18 months.
The first painful decision was taken yesterday.
The first painful decision was taken yesterday. Markets have not been very kind to him, but to my mind, it's a mature decision. You have to take such painful bullets now, so that in the next 18 months or so, we are in a better position to handle growth and push forward reforms. Secondly, a country like India, which depends on oil imports so significantly, will always be exposed to what's happening in Iraq or what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, and so on. So all we need is this Iraq crisis to prolong for a bit more, and you'll start worrying, you'll start seeing USD INR going higher, you'll see oil prices going higher, etc. Third, interest rates in India, I don't think are coming down very soon. Again, I'm so sorry to disappoint, but I don't think interest rates are coming down very fast because inflation continues to be high. For it to come low, I think we need some more time. Food inflation has to come down, oil inflation has to come down, it will take some more time. So though interest rates may not go up significantly from here, do not bet your money on interest rates being cut very soon. So to me, by and large, if you look at this, plus you have the subnormal monsoons, you will face some shocks coming from that side. If I have to put my bets on where the USD INR would be, I would probably think it will be more towards 62 to 63 over the next 6 months.
People are quiet. Okay, good. I think that you may agree, you may not agree, but that's a thought you need to think about it. My call, in fact, for the last 2 or 3 months has been very clear. I've not been talking about the rupee in public forums. I'm talking more about the dollar vis-a-vis the euro. Very clearly, the US economy is improving. I'm very bullish on the dollar. I was in South Africa last month in a huge international conference where I gave my outlook. I'm very bullish on the dollar. And with the rise in dollar, it was 1.39 to the euro. Currently, it's between 1.35 and 36 to the euro. I'm looking at the dollar at 1.30 towards the end of the year. Assuming that the US continues to show sustained growth and no big negative shocks. So the question simply is, will we have in this country a situation where the dollar is rising as well as the rupee? Will rupee also rise? With the dollar is that big question. And if I know your mind, it may not be. That's a thought. Okay. But there are some caveats. What if the government of India opens up FDI in railways, FDI in defense, and you get a surge of 10, 15, 20, 25 billion dollars? That's one we need to remember. Second, how far will this geopolitical tension in Iraq, and of course to a much lesser extent in Ukraine, how long will it continue? My belief is it can't continue forever. should possibly be a matter of 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, not beyond that. But yet, the point that you made that our trade deficit is large, remittances are not coming as much as we expected, and the dollar is strengthening. A lot of money that has come in is more of FII money rather than FDI, and therefore I think the rupiah aaj SI mode mein hai. I think it's very difficult whether it's going to take the highway and strengthen or whether it's going to take the low road. I still don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not a forex expert, although I would love to comment on it, but it's not an expert comment. We have Arvind to talk about it. But Arvind, will you also talk about the issues with currency market, particularly the currency futures market? Do you think the currency futures market are performing very well? Would you like to see some reforms? Do you have any recommendations for the currency futures market?
Sure. I guess currency futures is a fantastic addition to the tools which is available to Indian investors. So the whole idea was, till now, everybody was investing, was hedging using banks. So there was only a complete OTC market which is available. Now what the RBI has done and what in conjunction with SEBI is, they've come out with this currency futures market. What currency futures does for you is, instead of you taking a risk on me or me taking a risk on you, we try and reduce the risk and move to a common counterparty, which is a clearing exchange. What that does for us is, risk can be taken more, volumes of transactions can go up more, so it allows for better price discovery and liquidity eventually. But if you look at Indian currency futures, the experience has not been very, very successful. In fact, before that there was also interest rate futures, which is allowed by the regulator, and it didn't take off well also. The reason being, currency futures do not allow for delivery of the currency. So what happens is, at the end of the day, you might book a contract on the currency futures. On due date, you still have to cancel the contract, and you have to buy and sell through a bank for your remittance or for your payments. That's one. That's a big, big difference. Step two, liquidity on the currency futures never picked up. The reason being, there are so many regulations on what can be done, how much can be done. So we have to get out of this mindset that investors or people will speculate and try to bring down the country. At the end of the day, if you're giving a hedging mechanism to an investor, there should be enough checks and balances in the system, but do not make it so difficult for him that he finds it impossible to trade. The whole idea of bringing currency futures was to ensure that even smaller people can trade on the exchange without worrying too much about margins or underlying and so on. It worked to a great extent. It started off well. Then the RBI got worried when the currency started moving up. Then they put restrictions on how much can be dealt, how much can banks deal on the exchange vis-a-vis the OTC market and so on. So then volumes dried up again. Now what happens is, if I'm an investor and if I'm dealing on the exchange, one day I have liquidity, the next day I go, there's no liquidity. So then it becomes difficult for me to plan my hedging practice using currency futures. So what we suggest is, a lot of measures have been taken over the last few days. In fact, now even non-resident Indians like foreign portfolio investors have been allowed to hedge on the currency futures. The whole idea is, allow this market to blossom. When it's growing, give it breathing space. Ensure that regulations are not dampening it. The whole idea is, there's a lot of hedging on USD INR which is happening outside of India in the offshore markets. The whole idea is, how can you get this volume onshore so that your liquidity increases and the investors in India get the best price for the USD INR risk that they are taking.
So Arvind, what will be your specific recommendation?
So if I have to look at it, one is try and remove restrictions like limits which they have given. For example, today, up to $10 million, no question was asked, you can deal on the currency futures market. Beyond that, you either need to have an underlying or you need to explain and give a reason why not. To my mind, remove restrictions. A lot of investors...
First one is remove restrictions on position limits.
On position limits.
Right. Okay.
And the second thing is, if possible, in the longer term, integrate it to a delivery mechanism, wherein a position taken on the exchange can efficiently be delivered to the importer or the exporter counterparties, as the case may be, so that there is no need for a counterparty to cancel the contract and then make a payment to another bank and so on.
But does delivery take place in any part of the world in the currency market? I'm not sure. Does delivery take place? Because futures markets are intended to be hedging platforms. Delivery is not intended. In commodities, less than 1% of what is traded around the world in the developed countries actually ends up in delivery.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the currency market. Is currency trade finally delivered? Is there a delivery mechanism?
What happens is for a country like India, which is still emerging and which is still
Yeah,
opening up in terms of financial market reforms,
Correct.
if you allow clients to deliver, then you get retail participation in the exchange. So the whole idea is if you can integrate this and combine it with, let's say, larger time frame. So today the currency futures market also closes at 5 o'clock, 5:30.
Correct.
So if you can make it available for a slightly longer period of time, which allows Indian people to take risk beyond India, what's happening in London markets, you also see what's happening in New York market, you have a better platform to hedge. Then it gives a lot more edge to using currency futures as a
Excellent. Therefore, Arvind's come up with three, what I would think, brilliant suggestions. Remove restriction on position limits, integrate it with a delivery mechanism, and allow longer time for trading. These are three specific. Anything, Prithviraj, you have some views on currency?
I think allow bank to participate.
Allow?
Yeah, larger way. Because now it's all the restriction limit. The members only have a $50 million limit. Out of they can to the customers. So 10 million, if a whole limit should be members $50 million. So the time extension and second should be the increase the limit. Maybe up to 50 to 100 and allow banks to participate full-fledged.
Any thoughts?
I'll start with this statement saying that whenever there is, in mutual fund, if you have an ETF, you have a tracking error. And whenever there is a tracking error, whenever tracking error is beyond a percentile point also, SEBI just wakes up.
Right.
The same sort of a situation they should apply to currency market. If the tracking error, like if the exchange futures 1 month for future and 1 month forward on the OTC market has such a big variance and there is no cost of carry for storage for currency, that means we need regulation. I think many friends in this room may not like because I'm suggesting the arbitrage should go. But that would mean you've got wrong things. And as both my friends were saying, put the regulations in place. This is not a market for arbitrators to make money. They have enough places to do that. We have a clean, transparent market in both the places.
Second thing, the RBI reference rate, RBI should allow to be deal with the reference rate. Still today the reference rate is just the indicative price. So RBI should allow to banks to give the buy and sell rate at the reference rate also. So it's a restricted state.
Right. Okay, I understand. Okay. Okay, let me go back to one of the very critical questions. I want to pose that to Dr. Gopal Naik, and let me assure you this session will end sharp at 3 o'clock, 10 more minutes. Okay, so I think we started at 2. Right. Okay. Dr. Saab, often futures market, futures trading is blamed for price rise and inflation. Okay. What policy initiatives you think are required to ensure that too much of speculative capital does not flow into these markets? Particularly, I would talk about agriculture commodity market, essential commodities, and so that there is no exaggerated price action. After all, futures trading by itself does not create a shortage. But when there is a shortage, prices would tend to rise, and you introduce speculative capital, the price action is exaggerated. That's how it actually leads to inflation. What are your thoughts? What kind of policy initiatives are required to address this problem?
If you look at this inflation and futures market, in fact, there was this larger debate and also a Vijit Sen committee, and we have been able to show that there is not a whole lot of evidence to say that futures market actually causes the inflation. Though here and there we can always find some problems which will be there in every market. But some of the precautions to take are, one is of course, we should not really have a futures market for very thin markets or small volume markets. strengthen the futures markets in other commodities, large volume commodities, with much more stable policies. And we need to have a stable policy, long run policy, not waiting for the next, whether we get the approval of the contract for the next contract or not. That could have a lot more uncertainty in the minds of people. We should have a long run stable policy for the large volume commodities, whereas as far as the narrow commodities are concerned, there may be for a while we need not have it. Maybe once our futures market is very mature, then we may want to think about it. So that's probably something that we need to take care of.
Thank you. I have two more questions, but I'm going to combine them into one and ask each of the distinguished panelists here. The first one is futures trading volumes have declined in the last almost 1 year, as we know, 6 months certainly. There's no doubt at all. What initiatives are required to bring back trading volumes in commodity exchanges, and what steps are necessary to regain investor confidence? There's a big, massive loss of confidence amongst investors, and you know the reason. And you know the reasons, not just one, but many reasons. That's one. We need to get back volumes in the futures market. That's one. The second big question is should banks, mutual funds, and FIIs be allowed to trade commodities? So this is the big question. The first talk of allowing banks, mutual funds, and FIIs to trade commodities came in 2006. There was something called Gupta Committee report, which strongly recommended that it should be allowed. The media went gaga over it, everybody supported. I was the only fool who wrote against it, saying no, the market was not like it. Anyway, there is another report from the Finance Ministry's economic advisor, who happens to be my friend, about 15 days ago, saying again that we need to look at allowing banks, mutual funds, and FIIs to trade commodities. I have my views, but I'm not going to influence their thoughts. I want Vardhan to talk about what initiatives are required to regenerate volumes in the commodity futures exchanges, in the market, and gain investor confidence, and should banks and mutual funds and FIIs be allowed to trade?
As you rightly say, investor confidence, I don't know where in a market or an exchange you can have an investor confidence where a credible clearinghouse is not in place. I would like you to...
One second, just 2 minutes.
Yeah, a clearinghouse in place.
Yeah.
And a regulation which says that anything contracted on a commodity market anywhere in the country will not attract any additional local, state or local body levies.
Yeah.
You can have something like city what you have, but the levies are all upfront. Maybe example from all local levies. I'll stop it at that.
I think FI को अभी फिलहाल
No, 1 sec. So I think to get back volumes, you're talking about there should be uniform tax laws across the country.
Across the countries.
Perfect. Is that all?
I said if you ask me only 2 sentences, what I'll say.
Right. Is there one more? Quick fire recommendation.
Yeah. And
Have uniform tax laws across the country.
I would say that if Essential Commodities Act should not apply to it. Because whenever I tell anybody to even trade in a commodity, I'm very careful that he never ends up giving or taking delivery.
Right. Okay.
FIs, I think I oppose the FIs इसलिए अभी इतना जल्दी नहीं कि उनको अलाउ कर देना चाहिए. सेकंड CDT को उसको निकाल देना चाहिए, और थर्ड है जो इम्पोर्टर को अलाउ, जब गोल्ड की इम्पोर्ट ही इन्होंने रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया तो एक्सचेंज में वॉल्यूम कहाँ से आएंगे? तो इम्पोर्ट इजी होने के बाद में उसको अपना वॉल्यूम ऑटोमेटिकली इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. और थोड़ी बहुत प्रॉब्लम NSCL के हिसाब से भी कमोडिटीज में लोगों का मेंटली थोड़ा चेंज हो गया है कि NSCL में जो प्रॉब्लम होने से उसका भी थोड़ा इफेक्ट, मतलब इतना इफेक्ट उससे नहीं गिना जाता है जितना गवर्नमेंट ने जो करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट के हिसाब से जो रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया था. अगर इम्पोर्ट थोड़ा फ्री कर देते तो ऑटोमेटिकली वॉल्यूम कैन बिल्ड.
But what about banks, mutual funds,
No,
and FIIs? Should
इंडिया में इतना रिस्ट्रिक्शन है तो उनको अलाउ करने से इतनी छोटी मार्केट है। आज जैसे आप गौर और गौर सीट का ले लीजिए, एफआई आके अगर 500 करोड़ डाल देगा तो गौर सीट का भाव कहाँ से कहाँ चला जाएगा?
So should they be allowed or not allowed?
No.
No. Okay, all right. Now that's one view. Dr. Saab? I need to freeze this.
Yeah, essentially, strengthening futures market would mean that long-term policy, long-term stable policy that, for these commodities we are going to support the futures trading. I think that it has to be very clear policy so that there is no, break in the this one. And second one is good regulation, strong regulation is what is strong regulatory authority, not necessarily strong regulation could mean many things. So
Strong regulatory oversight.
oversight, that's very important. And the other one we said is the strengthening the physical market. So that would really help in bringing the physical futures interlinkages as well as therefore that should build the quality hedging.
What about banks? Should banks be allowed to trade?
If the sector is large, for example, if we have a stable policy, long-term policy of these commodities, it should be allowed. Anybody should be able to come and trade. I think that should not be any limit.
So you're in favor?
Yes,
You're in favor of allowing banks and mutual
Yes,
funds,
yeah.
including in essential agricultural commodities.
Essential yes.
For commodities like gold, silver, for transparent international commodities, yes. For other narrow commodities and agricultural commodities, maybe slowly, mutual fund first and then later on.
Gradually, right? It makes sense. Right? But you have
FIs allow either in the clearing house or maybe warehouses, but not the banks are not allowed for the trading. Because bank is only the facilitator. Bank will give the facility to their customer. In India, out of 10, 9 is the speculator. In India, 10 out of 9 is the speculator. So no one makes money.
Yes.
I'm not a commodity expert, but sitting in a bank, I do notice something on commodities. One of the biggest challenges which a bank faces is when you do commodity financing, and this need not be soft commodities, it could even be base metals and so on. The hedging laws in India today are very, very archaic. So if you have to hedge in the OTC market, you need to have an import or an export exposure. So you can only hedge if you're importing or exporting commodities. Right? And secondly, the client sitting in India can only hedge with an offshore bank. So which means if DBS India wants to hedge, he cannot hedge, but DBS Singapore can offer a hedge to an Indian client. Now, to me the regulation is slightly funny. If I'm taking exposure in India on the client, I should be allowed to hedge onshore. So if you ask me my recommendations, bearing essential commodities, preferably on the soft side, most of the other base metals or your precious metals have exposures which are linked to international markets. Banks, institutional investors have large exposures to these. Let's not view them as disruptive. These are investors who can bring a lot of technology, a lot of innovative ideas, can bring down the cost, build a regulatory oversight which is healthy. And let's have belief that the regulations will ensure that the speculators or the so-called rogue traders are protected, are caught. But do not prevent, because restriction never leads to development of the market. If you're keeping a large portion of the interested parties out of the market, they will try and choose to do it elsewhere. So instead of losing the volumes and not discovering prices, you should probably encourage onshore.
Just one contrarian view which I want to share is, I believe it is a core dharma of banks to lend money. Banks must be lenders, number one. Number two, banks do not have direct exposure to commodities. The bank's borrowers will probably have exposure to commodities. Therefore, banks, instead of trading commodities about which they know nothing, they don't know anything about these markets, banks must insist on the borrower that he goes to a futures exchange and hedges his risk. Banks should make this a precondition. This is what I would think. But anyway, we have experts who have shared their thoughts on what the banks should do. Obviously, the opinion is divided about the role of banks in commodity markets. By my watch, it's now 3 o'clock, 3:01. Therefore, I want to close. close this session here. I hope all of you found this interesting, but I think it'd be unfair for me to close it at this point of time. I'll probably open up the floor for a very quick, pointed one or two questions. Identify yourself, or if you have any suggestions, very snappy, one or two line suggestions that you're free to make. Yes, please.
My name is Gowalia. I would like to ask a question to Surajji. Surajji, you talked about gold depository scheme, and which is a very ideal thing to do. But I just want to understand is that what I understand in Indian market, people normally buy gold with cash. So how does the gold depository scheme work in that kind of cases?
जैसे इनकम टैक्स में भी 500 ग्राम तक गोल्ड अलाउ किया हुआ है। आपके घर में अगर 500 ग्राम का गोल्ड है तो आपको क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछते हैं। इसी तरह 500 ग्राम तक अगर डिपॉजिट कर सकते हैं इजीली।
Amnesty scheme, as you should allow.
No, not a amnesty. No.
I like you to rate, Chandrasekhar. What percentage of the gold, now I want you to react, of the gold is bought by agriculturists and agriculturists and rural.
Very substantial.
And that is more than 70%. So with 70% of the, or 80% of the gold held in India is above.
Absolutely. Point well taken. Point well taken. I agree.
देखिए 500 ग्राम तक को the lady and the husband is 250 ग्राम।
No, I think points well taken. Any more? Yes, please. I'm afraid I need to close the session after this. And of course, after the next session, there could hopefully be a tea break, and you can catch hold of the experts for a discussion.
Question to Bhargav and Prithviraj. What about the outlook of price? Both terms, dollar terms as well as Indian terms.
I think the short term is a bullish because of the Iraq crisis, and you have seen the Fed statement yesterday. So I think in the short term should be around 1350 maybe touch, but in the long term I think it's a bearish. And in the Indian rupee term should be around, on the downside should be around 27,000 and upper should be around 30,000 rupees. But I am more bullish in the silver. I am bullish in the silver. If a downside should be there around 39 to 40,000, upper side should be 60,000 rupees.
Gold, maybe I am with him. Though in silver, I don't agree to the upper side. I am a little bit less optimistic on silver. I don't sell any silver, so maybe I would freeze it around 54, 55. Thank you.
I'm not going to give my outlook. Please read my column on Monday. Thank you very much. I'll close the discussion here. I want to thank each one of the wonderful panelists, Dr. Gopal Naik, who's come all the way from Bangalore, and Bhargav Vaidya, Prithviraj Bhutari, and of course Arvind Narayan. Thank you very much for this participation. And my request is please be available for some more time for some of our very distinguished delegates to draw your expertise out. Thank you very much. Good luck and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you once again to our panel and to our moderator. To present our memento to Mr. Gopal Naik, please can I call upon stage Mr. Rakesh Mehta. May we have Mr. Uday Singh instead to present the memento. Mr. Uday Shah has stand corrected. For Dr. Gopal Naik, a huge round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Shah. To facilitate Mr. Bhargav Vaidya, may we have upon stage Rakesh Sanghvi, please. Shah on stage. Thank you, sir. To felicitate Mr. Prithviraj Kothari, may we have Mr. Kishore Khavia on stage. Thank you, Mr. Khavia. Can you please stay on stage to felicitate our Mr. G. Chandrasekhar, our moderator for session 3. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You may take your seats. Thank you. We welcome our honorable guests to the Vision 2019 conclave. The Honorable Chief of Shiv Sena, Shri Uddhav Thackeray, Lok Sabha MP Shri Arvind Savan, the head of Yuva Sena, the youth wing of the Shiv Sena, Mr. Aditya Thackeray. Welcome to Vision 2019 conclave. Can I request Mr. Prithviraj Kothari to please accompany Shri Arvind Savan to the dais. May I request Mr. Rajesh Vardhan to please accompany our chief guest, Shri Uddhavji Thackeray, to the dais. Along with Mr. Motilal Oswal, President of Jito and Chairman of Jito Gowalia Tank Chapter. Now may I call upon Mr. Rajesh Vardhan to address our guests, please.
गुड आफ्टरनून। आज जीटो ग्वालियर टैंक चैप्टर ने जो सुबह से कॉन्क्लेव का आयोजन किया है, उस उपलक्ष्य पर हमने आज के मुख्य अतिथि श्री उद्धव जी ठाकरे, हमारे इसी क्षेत्र के मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट और आदित्य जी ठाकरे, इन सबका यहाँ पे हम स्वागत कर रहे हैं। खूब खूब स्वागत करने के लिए बहुत ज्यादा इस समय नहीं कहूंगा, लेकिन श्री उद्धव जी ठाकरे के पूरा मुंबई, सर आज पूरा मुंबई आपसे बहुत बड़ी आशाएं कर रहा है, महाराष्ट्र तो कर ही रहा है, और जो इतनी मेजोरिटी के साथ में, थंपिंग मेजोरिटी के साथ में, जो सब जगह आपके उम्मीदवार जीते हैं, तो हम आपसे बहुत सारी आशाएं रख रहे हैं। मुंबई का व्यापारीगण आपके साथ में बहुत सारी आशाएं रख रहा है, और जीटो ग्वालियर की चैप्टर की तरफ से खूब खूब आभार, यहाँ पे अपना अमूल्य वक्त निकाल के आए हैं। और इसके बाद में मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा हमारे जीटो के चीफ सेक्रेटरी श्री राकेश जी मेहता जो 2 शब्द सब उद्धव जी के बारे में कहें। श्री राकेश जी मेहता।
जय जिनेंद्र, एक बार जोर से जय जिनेंद्र बोल दीजिए। जय जिनेंद्र। डिग्निटरीज ऑफ द डायस, उद्धव जी ठाकरे साहब, हमारे साउथ मुंबई के एमपी अरविंद जी सावंत, हमारे युवा चीफ, मैं उसको युवा चीफ ही बोल रहा हूँ, आदित्य, मोतीलाल जी, पृथ्वीराज जी, राजेश जी, बंधुओं, आज ये हमारे लिए बहुत खुशी की बात है। मेरे ख्याल से अगर एमपी इलेक्शन होने के बाद में अगर किसी भी सोशल फंक्शन में अगर उद्धव जी गए तो मेरे ख्याल से ये जीतो का आज पहले प्रोग्राम है। सर, हम आपके प्रति बहुत आभार प्रकट करते हैं, और मैं यहाँ ये कहना चाहूँगा कि मेरे ख्याल से बहुत सारी पार्टियाँ हैं इस देश में, बड़ी पार्टियाँ भी है, छोटी पार्टियाँ भी हैं, और जितनी एक्सेस जैन समाज की आप पर है, मेरे ख्याल से ऐसे किसी भी पॉलिटिकल इतने बड़े स्टॉलवर्ड लीडर पे नहीं होगी। ये हमारे लिए गर्व की बात है कि हमारी कभी भी कोई भी समस्या है, हम आपके यहाँ वॉक इन आ सकते हैं। बंधुओं, जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत कीजिए कि इस तरह का व्यक्तित्व इतने सीधे, सिंपल, और कभी भी हम जाते हैं, मेरे ख्याल से हमेशा इनके मन में एक तत्परता रहती है कि कैसे ये अपने काम आ सके। हमारे जो साउथ मुंबई के एमपी हैं अरविंद जी सावंत, हमारे सामने अभी इलेक्शन हुए, मेरे ख्याल से जिस मेजोरिटी के साथ जीत के आए, नो डाउट वेव थी, पर वो वेव एक अलग तरह की वेव थी, पर उस वेव में जिस तरह का सामने मिलिंद देवरा जैसे कैंडिडेट थे, उसमें ये जीत के आए, बहुत बड़ी बात है, क्योंकि हम एक एक बिल्डिंग में गए, एक एक गली में गए, एक एक जगह गए, और उसमें सबसे बड़ा इनका कॉन्फिडेंस, जिस कॉन्फिडेंस से ये जाते थे, मेरे ख्याल से इट वॉज मार्वलस। अरविंद जी, आपने जो मेहनत की, जो आपका कमिटमेंट था, और उसके साथ में पूरी टीम लगी हुई थी, आदित्य की, रजत, और ये पूरे, मेरे ख्याल से पहली बार हम लोग एक एक बिल्डिंग में इनके साथ गए और वहाँ लोगों से मिले। साहब, ऐसा है कि जैन समाज को बहुत एक्सपेक्टेशन है आपसे, हर समय हम कुछ न कुछ आपसे मांगने की कोशिश करते रहते हैं। सामने असेंबली इलेक्शन है, मैं जीतो के भी आप ये कह सकता हूँ कि हम आपके साथ हैं। जिस तरह से तन मन धन, जिस तरह से भी हम पार्टी के काम आ सकेंगे, हम जरूर आएंगे और हम आपके साथ खड़े रहेंगे। और हमारी ये कोशिश है कि कैसे भी करके, खैर पावर तो दिख ही रहा है, सामने सरकार आएगी, उसमें कोई किंतु परंतु नहीं है, पर कितनी मेजोरिटीज आती है वो देखने लायक है। और आगे जो चर्चा चल रही है पिछले 5-10-15 दिनों से सीएम की, तो हम चाहते हैं कि हम आपको उसी कुर्सी पर देखें। इसमें हमारा भी कल्याण है, समाज का भी कल्याण है, और 100% देश का कल्याण तो होने वाला ही है। क्योंकि अगर हिंदुत्व के बारे में अगर कोई व्यक्ति और कोई पार्टी सोचता है, तो वो मेरे ख्याल से शिवसेना, और उसके बाद बीजेपी भी सोचती है, पर जितना शिवसेना सोचती है उतना कोई नहीं सोचता है। एक ही एजेंडा, हिंदुत्व को कैसे बचाना। जरूर नरेंद्र भाई अभी आए, वो जरूर करेंगे, पर आपका तो सदैव एजेंडा रहा है। श्री बाला साहब ठाकरे का जो एजेंडा था, उस लेगेसी को आपको मेंटेन करके आगे लेना है, तो मेरे ख्याल से वो आप ही कर सकते हैं। मैं थोड़ा सा जीतो के बारे में आपको 2 मिनट में बताऊंगा कि जीतो एक एनजीओ है, सेक्शन 25 कंपनी है, ये हमारा एक चैप्टर है। जो राजेश जी आज ये प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज कर रहे हैं, इस तरह के 9 चैप्टर बॉम्बे में है। तो हम हर चैप्टर के द्वारा कुछ न कुछ सेवा का प्रोजेक्ट बीएमसी के द्वारा पार्टनरशिप में ले सकते हैं। जैसे हमारा ये प्रोजेक्ट डायलिसिस का घाटकोपर में चल रहा है, बहुत ही बढ़िया चल रहा है। वहाँ पे 6 डायलिसिस मशीन लगी हुई है और हर दिन 150-25 पेशेंट वहाँ फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट चल रहे हैं और बहुत लोगों को फायदा हो रहा है। तो इस तरह का हम बीएमसी के हर हॉस्पिटल में जहाँ जगह मिल सकती है, जीतो उस प्रोजेक्ट को लेने को तैयार है और उसमें आगे बढ़कर काम करेगा। इसी के साथ आपकी कोई भी अगर कोई एक आध हॉस्पिटल हमको मिलता है जिसको हम रिवाइव कर सकें और उसमें भी अगर कुछ कर सकते हो हम करने को तैयार हैं। कहीं कोई स्कूल कॉलेज जीतो को अगर बीएमसी दे सकती है तो उसमें भी हम बढ़ चढ़ कर हिस्सा लेंगे। इस तरह की किसी भी कहीं पे कोई अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलेगी जीतो हमेशा करना चाहेगा। तो मैं चाहूँगा कि अगर आप बीएमसी को इस तरह का कहीं कोई हमारा एक इस तरह की मीटिंग हो जाए जहाँ हम इस तरह के काम करने को तैयार है। जीतो 3 तरह का काम करता है सर्विसेज में, इस तरह की सोशल सर्विस करता है। एजुकेशन में हम लोग IAS IPS IRS के फ्री कोर्सेज चलाते हैं जिसमें अब तक हमारे 48 बच्चे IAS IPS IRS लग चुके हैं और करीब 156 बच्चे स्टेट सर्विसेज में आ चुके हैं। तो ये जीतो की बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है कि आने वाले समय में हमको लगता है कि आंकड़ा हम अगले 10 साल में 400-500 तक ले जाएंगे। इसी तरह एजुकेशन में हमारे द्वारा करीब 1000 बच्चे बैंक से जो लोन के माध्यम से पढ़ रहे हैं उसकी इंटरेस्ट की सब्सिडी जीतो 50% उठा रहा है और 50% वो दे रहे हैं। तो 1000 बच्चे में से 280 बच्चे आज विदेशों में पढ़ रहे हैं। तो एक बहुत बड़ा जीतो का प्रोजेक्ट है और उसी के साथ जीतो 14 हॉस्टल बना रहा है। तो इस तरह की अगर कहीं कोई संभावना हो जहाँ हम बॉम्बे में भी कोई हॉस्टल और कोई एजुकेशन बड़ा सेंटर बना सके तो ये हमारी रिक्वेस्ट है आपसे। बाकी आगे इस असेंबली इलेक्शन में हमसे जो भी अपेक्षा रहेगी पार्टी की हम उसमें खरे उतरेंगे और हम आपके साथ रहेंगे। आपका यहाँ पधारने के लिए जोरदार हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं और इसी के साथ हमारे साहब के साथ में मिलिंद जी पधारे हैं, सतपाल जी पधारे हैं, भाई साहब पधारे हैं। हम सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत करते हैं, धन्यवाद करते हैं आप पधारे। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you, sir. We now invite the President of Jito Apex, Mr. Motilal Oswal, to say a few words.
Very good afternoon, friends. Honorable उद्धव जी, हमारे MP साहब, अरविंद सावंत साहब, आदित्य ठाकरे जी और आप सभी दोस्त, बहुत हमारे गौरव की बात है कि हमारे साथ हमारे फ्यूचर चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब बैठे हैं। मैं आप सबकी तरफ से हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूँ। साहब से हाँ, राकेश जी बता रहे हैं कि नरेंद्र मोदी जी हमारे जीतो के प्रोग्राम में 3 बार आए हैं, तो उनके कहने का मतलब उद्देश्य को हम बार बार बुलाते रहेंगे। ऑलरेडी आ चुके हैं लेकिन हम बार बार बुलाते रहेंगे एज ऑन द डेकोरेटिव पोस्ट एज ए चीफ मिनिस्टर। सो आई थिंक वी आर ऑल बिजनेसमैन साहब, हमको एक बिजनेस और पॉलिटिक्स का एक बहुत बड़ा एक रिश्ता है। सो हमको आशा है कि आप जल्दी से जल्दी आई थिंक पूरी तैयारी के साथ आएंगे और मुंबई और महाराष्ट्र के लिए और सबके लिए एक अच्छा बिजनेस का माहौल खड़ा करेंगे। आपने देखा होगा पिछले आई थिंक 5 साल में एक ओवरऑल इकोनॉमिक काइंड ऑफ आई थिंक डेवलपमेंट जो था देश का काफ़ी रुक गया था और मुझे लगता है कि काफ़ी एक मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ कि अभी मोडिफाइड इंडिया है। नाउ वी आर मोडिफाइड इंडिया एंड आई एम श्योर नाउ वी विल हैव काइंड ऑफ आई थिंक शिवसेनाफाइड महाराष्ट्र। ऑल द बेस्ट।
Thank you, Mr. Oswal. Now may I please request Honorable Shri Arvind Sawant, Member of Parliament, to please say a few words.
जीतो के इस खास समारोह में उपस्थित हमारे शिवसेना के पक्ष प्रमुख आदरणीय उद्धव जी ठाकरे साहब, हमारे युवा नेता आदरणीय आदित्य जी ठाकरे साहब और आज अभी जिन्होंने मार्गदर्शन किया वो जीतो के प्रेसिडेंट मोतीलाल ओसवाल जी, हमारे मित्र राकेश मेहता जी, राजेश वर्धन जी, पृथ्वीराज कोठारी जी, उपस्थित सभी आदरणीय भवदीय भाई और बहनों, बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है क्योंकि अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं। लेकिन रेल का किराया बढ़ गया है छोटी छोटी बातें होती रहेगी, सुधार अगर लाना है तो। आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का नाम बड़ा अच्छा है और उसका शॉर्ट फॉर्म उससे भी बड़ा अच्छा है, जीतो। और हम इसीलिए मैं खुश हूं कि आगे चलकर विधानसभा में हमें जीतना है, इसलिए आपने उद्धव जी ठाकरे साहब को बुलाया कि जीतो। राकेश मेहता साहब कह रहे थे हिंदुत्व के बारे में, छोटी पार्टियां बड़ी पार्टियां, छोटी पार्टी होकर भी बोलती हैं, लेकिन मेहता साहब एक बात बताता हूं, शिवसेना दिखने के लिए छोटी पार्टी है लेकिन उसका दिल बहुत बड़ा है। बड़े दिल वाली हमारी इतनी पार्टी आपको मिलेगी नहीं। ये संस्कार हमारे वंदनीय शिवसेना प्रमुख बाला साहब ठाकरे जी का है। राष्ट्र के हित में जो जो करना है वो अगर करना है तो उस वक्त चाहे पॉलिटिकली हमें एक पैर पीछे घूमना हो, एक कदम पीछे आना हो, आएंगे, लेकिन राष्ट्र के हित में हम खड़े रहेंगे। चुनाव की नीति, जीतने की नीति, उससे भी राष्ट्र हित की नीति करते आए। और आज मुझे गर्व है कि शिवसेना प्रमुख के बाद में उद्धव जी साहब ने जिस ढंग से शिवसेना पार्टी को आगे बढ़ाया है, अगर आप इतिहास देखोगे तो शिवसेना के कल तक सबसे ज्यादा सांसद एक बार आए थे, वो आए थे 15। आज उनके नेतृत्व में 18 सांसद हमारे 20 में से आए। ये हमारी बड़ी उपलब्धि है, ये महाराष्ट्र के लिए भी बड़ी उपलब्धि है। मैंने देखा कि क्या क्या काम करना चाहते हो, क्या कर रहे हो, उस पर ज्यादा भाषण में करूंगा नहीं क्योंकि साहब यहाँ बैठे हैं, लेकिन उनकी विजन आप जानते हो। कल के अखबार में कल उन्होंने प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस दी, बहुत सारी चीजें बताई हैं। आप सामाजिक कार्य भी बहुत करते हो, बच्चों की पढ़ाई में, शिक्षा में। हम चाहते हैं कि शिवसेना उसी तरह से काम करती आई है। शिवसेना का पहला अगर आप संस्कार बाला साहब ने शिवसेना के निर्माण में किया हुआ याद रखोगे तो वो था 80% सामाजिक कार्य, 20% राजनीति। अब 80% सामाजिक कार्यों में पिछले 48 साल हमें करते आए हैं, लेकिन सिर्फ एक ही है कि हम सोशल मीडिया जैसे उसको ज्यादा उसकी प्रचार किया नहीं हम लोगों ने। आज मैं चाहता हूं कि अगर अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं तो अच्छे दिन आने के लिए अच्छे लोग भी आने चाहिए। और आने वाले विधानसभा चुनाव में ये भी याद रखना कि राजनीति में मैं अपना नेता है करके नहीं बोल रहा हूं, मेरा नेता है करके नहीं बोल रहा हूं। राजनीति में अगर कोई चारित्र संपन्न सुसंस्कृत नेतृत्व है तो सिर्फ उद्धव जी ठाकरे और जिनके मन में ये चीज है कि महाराष्ट्र को भी जिस ढंग से एक बार महाराष्ट्र हमारा 1 नंबर पे था, आज बहुत पीछे है। उनके मन में उन्होंने एक सपना देखा है। मुझे याद है जब राष्ट्रपति का अभिभाषण हुआ तो कांग्रेस के लोगों ने हमारे ऊपर बहुत आलोचना की, क्या क्या सपने दिखे थे, सपने के महल दिखाते हैं। तो मैंने उस वक्त भाषण में सांसद ने भी कहा, मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती है जिनके सपनों में जान होती है, पंखों से नहीं हौसलों से उड़ान होती है। और हौसला जिसका बुलंद हो उड़ान कर सकता है। मैं आज भी कहता हूं मेरे उद्धव साहब ने बहुत बड़ा हौसला रखा है। महाराष्ट्र को फिर से दोबारा 1 नंबर पे लाना है और हम चाहते हैं आपकी जैसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हमें साथ दे, हमें आशीर्वाद दे, मार्गदर्शन करे, सहयोग करे। इसी अपेक्षा से मैं आपसे विदाई लेता हूं। जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र, वंदे मातरम।